me to come on, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, if I wanted excitement, I'd ask, I don't know. I don't really know anybody
Somebody
excited.
else.
I'd ask somebody else.
Yeah.
Welcome to Practical Shooting After Dark. My name's Ben. We are here to talk about shooting, answer shooting questions, all that fun stuff. On deck tonight, as usual, Joel Park in
Hello,
the
everyone.
pre-show discussing how boring he is.
That's it.
But Joel generally gives good information and is helpful, so it's kind of difficult to hate on him. I do my best, though.
Yeah, you do a pretty good job at it, though. But,
I sure do. And Mr. Hwansik Kim.
Hi.
Hi. Are you a little quiet? Are you hearing him good?
he's a little bit far away from the mic, I think.
Is it better now?
Only a little.
A little.
You're better before.
Turn up your input. Anyway, we'll let you play around with that, Mr. Kim. Joel,
Yes.
why don't you lead it? Whoa, Kim, you're a little loud now. Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Say hello.
Hi.
Yeah, you're perfect.
Yeah.
All right, Joel,
Awesome.
what do you got? What do you got for us? You said you
All
have
right.
a boring topic. I can't wait.
Well, I think it's helpful, though. Well, I've received several questions from first-time class organizers about how to organize classes or how I do it. So I just thought I'd explain my process a little bit
Shit.
and hopefully
Oh, that is boring.
alleviate some issues that others seem to be having. So the first step is picking a date, obviously, for the instructors available for getting approval from your range. So this is the hard part for me. So I know my audience ahead of time.
Well, how about this, Joel? How about this? What is a class organizer? For those who may not know. Because
Dude.
I'm hoping this might cut down on emails I get.
Okay. So I decide. So let's say I've seen Ben online, like my first class. I've seen Ben online, like, hey, I want to have this guy come do a class. So I talk to the person, the instructor, whoever that is, whether it's Ben, Vogel, whoever. Like, hey, I would like to have you come to my range. Is that something you would do? These are the dates I would like. And then the organizer, the instructor is like, yeah, I can do this weekend or this weekend. It's like, okay, cool. Then I would touch base with my range and like, hey, I go to a meeting basically. And so I know my audience ahead of time when I get there. I've got this formal written proposal that I submit in person to their monthly meeting. I list exactly what the class is, what we'll be doing, what I need from them, like access to the props that I don't have, how many bays I need, the credentials or accomplishments for the instructor, like basically lay everything out. I'd like to have them come for these dates. Is that okay? Like, yes. Like, okay. So then, like, I'm addressing all my.
Joel, we got to get more base level than this. Just make sure people get it.
Okay.
So the way the training business works traditionally is like, so this would be if you are one of the hundreds of people that will email me, send me a Facebook message, leave a comment on Instagram, or send me an Instagram DM. This is for you. If you send a message like, hey, Ben, when are you coming to X place? When will you be here? That's not a bad question. I'd love to come to wherever it is that you'd like to have me. But the way the business works, and it's not just for me, it's pretty much everybody, is like, I don't really set my own schedule or I don't decide where I go. People come to me and say, hey, I'd like you to come to a class at my range. These people have become known as class organizers because we have, like between instructors and class organizers, we have like a symbiotic relationship. Class organizers want people to come to their range to do a class, or they want to make money off the class, or both. I mean, whatever the motivation is, it doesn't really matter. Those people want to get you there. They're hooked up at the range. They know the board members. They know what kind of props they have. They're friends with the right people to talk to, so they can actually effectively facilitate having an outside person come and do a class there. It's pretty fair summation. So like for me, if I contact Joe Bumfuck at your range, whoever, like whatever BOC runs your range, if I send that dude an email, hey, I'd like to come to your range to do this class, that may or may not be productive or fruitful for me. I'm definitely not going to show up at a meeting to discuss what the class is. Like I'm not going to travel there to discuss. It doesn't make any sense. So the only way it makes sense is to have somebody on the ground hooked up at a range to organize the class so the instructor could even go there. So before you send me the message, Ben, are you coming to this place? Just understand, I'm not really in charge of where I go. I work for people like Joel.
Fair enough.
Yeah, okay.
So for me anyway, getting it like approved, in my eyes, is half the battle. So
I mean, at your club, in your situation.
yeah,
right?
and maybe
Different.
place.
I would
I've heard-
imagine. I'm just guessing here, but you have a really big gun club. And the bigger the gun club, what do you have? 3,000 members?
Probably something
2,800,
like
I
that.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bigger the gun club, typically, the more bullshit you're gonna have to go through to get anything approved.
Yeah, and I have friends that have like a similar big club, but they were messaging me, "Hey, how do you make this happen?" So, like when I give them the proposal, it's like I address their concerns ahead of time before they can even interrogate me about it. So I'm listing like the insurance coverage, like safety. We use USPSA rules, 180, all that crap. So I propose what I think the guest fee should be. So hopefully I'm like I've got everything laid out, and they check it like, "Yep, approved, done. Yep, that's okay. We'll approve this." So then I get back to the instructor, whether it's Ben, Vogel, whoever, like, "Yeah, this is approved. Put me down. I've got this date. Come for a class." Okay. So now I figure out, I need to figure out what the tuition is. It's the next big piece of that. So I figure out the supplies I will need for the class, and then I divide that by the number of students. So the only supplies you'll probably need are like targets, pasters, spray paint. That's probably about it. Make sure you add in whatever the range fee is. You want to negotiate that with the range ahead of time if they're going to have one. Hopefully it's a nominal fee. Like my club has a $5 guest fee, so that's it. That's all they charge, $5 a person. So that just gets added on. So you get the supplies, the range fee, the $5, and then I add on whatever the fee is for the instructor, and that is your tuition. So I then post that like online. We have just a private group for our club. Like, hey, this is when he's coming. It'll be next year. It's 11 months out.
Oh my God.
I know.
Joel, you are one of the most organized class organizers.
Yeah. Oh, it gets better.
You're a good guy to be putting up this message.
So I had messages from people that they've got into a disaster where they don't know what they have, or they can't keep it straight. So then anyway, I just put out a feeler like, "Hey, he's coming. Would you be interested? These are the dates," so people can at least put it on their calendar if they want to. So then I just create an Excel sheet for like what people want each class, and I just make a list. I don't care about money 11 months in advance, because you know what? Like, who knows where we're going to be a year from now. So then when the class is probably 3 months out or so, I just start messaging people down the list. First come, first serve. Like, "Hey, this is a class. Tuition's payable to me because the instructor is going to get one large cashier's check." And then I'll just start crossing people off the list. Because at that point, like, life happens. They could have other plans. Finances could be tight, whatever. So then I just keep going down the list until I get everybody's money. By the time I'm 1 to 2 months out, student list should be finalized. Tuition's collected. Like I said, I cut one big cashier's check payable to the instructor, because I'm not going to hand Ben 20 personal checks and some cash and who knows what else, like traveler's checks. It's like, here's this wad of stuff, you go figure it out. So just one check to him, which makes his life easier. And then that's basically it. Hopefully everything's taken care of. But like, Ben picks, I don't know, I'm slightly OCD, but I do feel responsible or an obligation to the people attending the class also. Because like if I've got Ben, whether he's driving or somebody flying in, it needs to be organized when they get there. But then also I've got an obligation to the 20 people or whatever people are going to be in those classes, that's going to be organized, and that everything they need is going to be there. So and then coincidentally, I'm following the same MO for organizing the training group summit next year. So it's just easy to keep things straight.
The range there is a little bit easier on the approval, though.
This is true.
I the same way, but as far as I know, the organizers, the hard part is getting the range situated. Would you agree?
I agree. That's always been.
By the way, Joel and Kim, this will apply to you as well. So the range my home range.
Yeah, I've been there. I like it.
Okay, well, it's missing something that I think is nice, which would be shelter.
Mm-hmm.
So on the bays, there's no shade or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But they're finally remedying that. So they're using temporary pop-ups, I think, since like 2014. So they just put them up during matches, which we could use. But they're starting to build. They built a couple permanent shelter structures, but there's 10 bays. So I want them to do more of the bays, especially the one that I use for my own practice.
Yeah,
so
the last two especially.
Yeah, so I'm considering making a little donation to the club. If they can give me a price on the shelters, I might cut them a check and
Let's go. That'd be awesome.
Give back a little bit in a way that's in no way self-serving. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But for the summit, there should be some shelter out there. That'll be nice.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, Kim. What were you saying? So just getting approval is the tough part.
Yeah, I think like filling up the class is usually not a big problem. Like if the organizer can't fill up the class, then definitely instructor, instructor can bring more people too.
I've got easily twice as many names as people that'll be on the class, but I go into that knowing, like, hey, 3 months out when I start messaging people, let's say I've got a list of 40 names. There's going to be people, hey, I forgot, hey, I can't afford it, my kid needs braces, I'm already going on vacation that weekend, I mean, whatever. So you go into it knowing that list will get thinned out. Yeah, it's no big deal.
Or what do they say? Like writing a check turns a conversation into a commitment.
Yes.
So until somebody's written that check, they ain't committed to shit.
Correct. But I'm not going to collect people's money 11 months out either, because I'm not going to hold them to that. And then when they want it back, then I've got to get the money sent back to them or have it set aside or something. So it's just like, don't even worry about it.
Well, so the big thing is go to your board meeting armed with everything they might want to know.
Yes. The proposal in writing, I have also. That way there's like no questions about what was said. And then
that's good.
Yeah, and then address concerns ahead of time. So like, hey, I know these guys, they're going to be asking about insurance. So in there I'm like, hey, this instructor has this amount of insurance, you know, that type of stuff. They'll be worried about safety. Hey, we observe the 180 rules. It'll be, you know, a cold range, you know, that kind of stuff. So like,
but if you happen to be like a board member or you know somebody on the board member, the process can be very easy.
Yes, I have no doubt.
No, that's the truth. Is if you know the right person, whatever the rules are written for the range, I don't give a fuck. Like it does not matter. Mm-hmm. If you know the right person, you're going to be able to do what you want to do. That's just the way it is. Maybe that's not like a politically correct thing to say, but I've never seen a board, a gun club board, observe the rules that other people observe at the gun club. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's pretty accurate, yes.
It doesn't matter what it is. It'd be like, you guys set up targets like this, like these are the rules. And then it's like, oh, but when our match is going on, no, then we do things this way. And you're like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. It's always the way it is.
Yeah. But be organized, avoid the headache, and make it a good experience for the people attending and the instructor so he'll want to come back.
Well,
it's headache neither one of you need.
Yeah, so I mean, a well-organized class for me, I'll just show up at the range the morning of class starting, and we got everything we need, and we're good to go, and there's no problems. That's always good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When things are not organized well, then I'm usually scrambling a little bit. But I don't have a lot of that. I think the organizers that I get are pretty good.
Good.
Well.
All right.
Is that it? Should we move on?
That's it. I bored you to death. I know.
I'm not bored. I mean, it's an interesting thing for that group of people that wants to get instructors to their place.
Yeah. Or like I said, first-time organizers, I think, because it was just like, hey, I want to do this, but where do I start? What do I need to do? Have you had any lessons that you learned the hard way that I should look out for? Yeah. I have some things I could share. You should watch out for this.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Kim.
Yes, I brought a gear. So I recently posted a video on Instagram of me shooting with a mask on because there was a very bad sand storm or sand wind. So there was a lot of sand going into my eyes, but I've used this product mainly for...
So you're talking about Carry Optics Nationals?
Yes, Carry Optics Nationals. There was a very bad wind and it's on the desert. I've been using this product for about a year, mainly for body cooling. So what it is, it's called Freezer Zero Neck Gaiter, as you can see. Inside of this neck gaiter, there's weird blue rings that's supposed to absorb water and cool it down. It doesn't matter, like even if you use warm water, it's gonna turn this neck gaiter into really cooling material. So I used it mainly to, cool my body down. So like 90 degrees plus weather, I'm always using it. Uh, but this actually a neck gaiter. I used it like a towel, cooling towel. But when the sandstorm started blowing, I just used it as a mask. So it's got like holes in them, so you can actually breathe through it if you can see it.
Hmm.
So if you just put your mouth on it, you can breathe normally. And I just put it up to my right underneath my sunglasses or the eye protection. So the sand stopped going into my eye. So it really, the first stage, I didn't do that. And then I started seeing other people who has a neck gaiter doing that. So covering up to their cheek. So I tried that, and first it's cooling, so it feels good, and it doesn't let the sand go underneath my eye protection. And on the top part, of course, I have the hat, so it's completely blocking the vent, so I'm not getting any sand in it, and I'm easily the breathing part is not like breathing completely normal, but it's nothing like, oh, I can't breathe anymore type of breathing. So if you don't match your mouth with the holes, yeah, you're gonna have some problems. But as long as you have that holes aligned with your mouth, you won't have any issues. So I can cover it up to my ears and cover it up to my eyes if I wanted to. And in the regular time, I was just using it to cool my body down, just around my neck. I don't bring it up to my face. Just wear it like a scarf.
Hmm.
So this can really helpful for both cooling my temperature and also preventing the sand going in. So this is a pretty cheap product. The retail on this is 30, but right now on the internet website I'm seeing $15. So I think this is a very worth something that you should put it in your backpack. No matter it's a hot or not, just keep it in your backpack like a knee pad or something like that. So there's a couple essential items. So you need a towel to just in case clean something or clean your hands out or sweat, and then knee pad, and this neck gaiter is something that I always put it in my backpack now. So I think everybody should, maybe not everybody, it's people who especially travel around, especially to the desert area or hot climate area, I think you should get it.
I like
All
it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you stop at a convenience store after you leave the range, make sure you don't have it covering your face, I suspect.
Yeah, that's true. So the brand name is Columbia. It is a big sport equipment
Yeah.
brand. Columbia. You can get it from Amazon, but Columbia is on sale right now, so you can get it for $15.
Oh, awesome.
Good
Makes
idea.
sense. Yeah, I like it.
All right. Joel, you wanted me to talk about a question that went up in training group today.
It did. So the question was asking about practice bays and how you use
What's
them.
your approach to using practice base for warm up? Do you do anything specific? How many rounds? So let me I'm not 100% sure what he's talking about, so I put in a follow up question to make sure I know what he's talking about. But I'm going to guess he's talking about practice bays at nationals. Which I don't think they call them practice bays, something like equipment test or some shit.
Test fire bays, I think.
Yeah. So I think that's a better way to term it. The idea that you're going to go there and practice effectively is it's not really going to happen. So what we saw in Utah, the few times they've had warm up bays there or equipment test bays was, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 people in a line shooting at steel targets that are, arrayed downrange. And it's, there's a lot of people shooting, and you're not really going to do practice there. It basically is equipment test, in my opinion. What would you say, Mr. Hwansik?
Yeah, I would agree. Some kind of there's two things I always do if I have enough ammo and there's a okay practice bay. The first thing I do is I shoot red dot. So sometimes I don't have a problem with SRO so far, but when I was shooting Delta Point, there was 2 times where actually the zero kind of changed. I don't know if something was pressed or if it was equipment stuff. So I basically pick a small object, usually some garbage into the dirt. So there's some garbage flying around and there's something small object. I shoot that I try to hit that, and then if it hits, usually practice pay, I would say 15 yards to 20 yards is pretty common. So I zero my gun around 15 to 18 anyway, so I check my zero. That's the first thing I do. And then the second one is typically traveling around, I don't have luxury of shooting same ammo all the time, so I make sure to do at least a full mag, which is about 15, 16 rounds of doubles. So I am the recoil is maybe sometimes more than my practice ammo, sometimes less than my practice ammo. So I'm really trying to see how much I need to return, how much flip there is, and etc. And other than that, I don't do much. Usually I bring 3 full mags, so it happens to be under 50 rounds, I think. So I shoot about just the day one, just to check. Day 2, day 3, I usually don't do anything but just dry fire in the safety table. So probably 50 rounds is the most I will shoot.
Yeah, so I think there's a few issues. Number one, a lot of people are there shooting. Number two, you're going to be restricted on time because there's a match going on and you want to be looking at this stage or doing this other thing, so you're not going to have a ton of time. Depends on how much ammo you brought, how much ammo is available to shoot. And I'll go over to the test fire bay just because I feel compelled for some reason to go there and shoot a couple rounds just because I can. But I know it doesn't really matter or do any good. It's just like, just kind of going through the motions, you know. That I don't think it really matters or helps. And if it's a free-for-all test fire bay, you're going to have a hard time doing specific productive practice, I would say.
And if you suspect you're having gun problems, you're going there to sort it out. You should be talking to the RM to change guns anyway. Because let's say I thought like my extractor or something was having problems, going and shooting 50 rounds doesn't really mean anything because it's, in my mind, that's not enough of a test to know if you've got your gear problem fixed anyway. So if you're in that situation where hey, my equipment's not sure I'm working, I would just talk to the match officials, get the okay, and switch guns. But you don't have enough ammo to go test something.
Your go-to is going to be to change guns.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have Joel for a gunsmith, that's a thing that might happen. You just never know.
Hey, you get what you pay for.
That's true.
Some matches, they actually sell targets. I don't even bother shooting targets. I just shoot at the dirt. So save your money. You don't really need targets. Like shooting doubles, you don't really need targets. You can just shoot the dirt, pick one spot, kind of thing.
Yeah,
man.
If you don't have a front sight, you just switch to your other gun.
You are such a cheap son of a bitch, Kim.
I am so far.
It's gonna change. You're gonna start spending money frivolously. Just wait.
Yeah, I gotta get my wife out of school first.
That's true, and then it's time to go crazy. All right, let's move on to a shooting question a guy sent in. Ben, I'm wondering if you and the panel can educate us on how shooters can inspect skills to transfer between drills and match scenarios. Found some basic skill performance ebbing between drills, even in the same practice session. Example, I was easily performing sub-second draw on bill drills. For some reason, my draw increased by 0.2 to 0.3 seconds when I switched to 4 aces drill. WTF. Example 2 was practicing shooting through a port for area match preparation. My splits for open 10-yard targets is normally around 0.2 seconds, but shooting through the port, my splits were 0.45 seconds. I was expecting to take a hit on the transition time, but not the splits. While only a B-class shooter, I have the expectation that individual skill performance in different scenarios would be fairly consistent. Assuming this is a reasonable expectation, at what level does this manifest? Any tips for training skill consistency? So I'll take it from the top. His expectation that skill performance in different scenarios would be consistent, that is not, I mean, it's reasonable on the face of it, sure, but as soon as you start getting good in training, you'll see that is very much not the case and not really the way things work. So this is not going to manifest itself at any level. Although I'll say that as you get better and better, you see less and less degradation in skills that you're measuring if you're measuring them in different ways. So like the example he gave is, hey, my draw is one thing on a bill drill, but then it's this different number on a different drill. Those you're going to see the numbers converge a little bit, but there's always going to be a little bit of a difference, in my opinion. And the reason is, like the example he gave, if I'm not doing bill drills, I understand, hey, I'm essentially having my draw tested. I stand there, I focus on one thing. I focus on nailing that draw into my good grip. And then I, push those times down as much as I can. If I go to a different drill, then I have more focal points, especially the more complex a drill gets, the more you're going to see whatever numbers you care to look at, you're going to see them changing and getting longer than the times that you've really optimized by working on just that one specific point. That is just the way it is. I wouldn't worry about it. It is normal, but what you'll see is things don't have as much of a spread as you get better. I feel like I covered that pretty well. What do you think, Kim?
Yeah, I like that. For me, I definitely separate my practice into about 3 segments. So the first one is development. Development is where like you're trying to figure out new technique or basically trying different things. Like for example, if you're developing grip, trying different rotation and different grip pressure, blah blah blah. And then once you find the better technique, you now start mastering that by doing repetitions or regular training. But right now, up to mastering practice or developing practice, because you can do like sub-second draw or like doubles 2-inch group as fast as you can pull the trigger, that doesn't mean you can actually do that at matches. So the last part of the practice I do is basically execution part, which is, some people say consistency, like both are the same. So when I do that, I make that execution practice as close as possible to actually what I do at matches. That means I go through visualization, like walkthrough kind of thing, and like memorization, like close your eyes or your hands here and there trying to memorize things. I actually do them in training too. So once I develop a technique and try to master it, and then later I do drills that challenges all the aspects. So a good drill is position, entry, exit kind of thing, because in position, entry, exit drill, you already have multiple targets where you have to draw and manage the recoil and target transition and then moving around. So there's all the components that you do in matches. When you do those kind of things, you really focus on the execution part. Like I said, you go through the steps that you do at matches, and then in that practice, you're basically developing all the skills, like technique. In terms of techniques, you develop a technique, how to use them, and also develop a skill to memorize faster and walk through properly, and then actually executing what you program in your walkthrough or visualization. Those, when you do them, that's more realistic to what you're going to be doing at matches. And a lot of people skip that part and just go through. Some people don't even try to develop that much. Some people just go deep into mastering without actually developing your skills. So whatever happens, I don't care as long as I hit the 0.7 draw mark. That kind of example makes sense, right? So a lot of people are lacking one or the other. So some people may not do development very well, but just trying to master what you even don't know is going to work. So you got to make sure you do step by step, and you got to know that mastering, just going through repetitions at home, is not really representation of your actual execution at matches. So you got to really separate them. A lot of people try to do 10 times, and if it works,
right? Okay, yeah. But to
Mm-hmm.
keep it on track with what this guy's asking about, if you do a stage or a match mode practice run, mm-hmm. you would not expect to be at your best,
your personal best,
through the numbers on the shit that you're doing.
Yeah, realistically, no.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so basically got to be realistic.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a good question. He's trying to figure out what is realistic. I had the same conversation with myself when I started training. I'd be like, yeah, boom, 1 second draw. I've mastered this. And then I'd go to a stage in a match, and my 1 second draw wasn't 1 second anymore. And my fast splits weren't as fast anymore. I mean, everything was like a little bit, not what I thought it should be. And it took me a while to sort of understand how that worked.
Yeah, well, the environment's also different because you have different levels of pressure also. So,
Absolutely.
like me practicing on my range is a lot different. Like banging out these super fast draws and loads is a lot different to having Ben watch me when I'm doing something in a class, which is a lot different from me making ready on my first stage at nationals.
Yes.
So
For me, basically what it is it's not really about developing muscle memory, doing things automatic. Our sport is actually about visualizing and executing what you visualize. Because muscle memory can F you up, because if your muscle memory
Did
is
you?
every time,
Whoa! Did you just say
every time
F up?
yeah,
Whoa!
every time you move, reload super fast, yeah, that's a good thing in a case. Like if you can reload within a second every time you move, if you're shooting production, that's okay. But there are situations where you don't want to reload in between positions. So the real key is visualizing and executing what you programmed.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Another wonderful podcast. Thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Kim and Mr. Park. They're both very Korean sounding names, of course.
they are.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. All right, everybody, if you've got a question you want the answer to, go to bensteger.com. Send me your question. We would be happy to address it for you. Wouldn't we, guys? Or maybe not?
Yes, love to.